All you can eat. The moment you walk into a restaurant with all you can eat in the name, you're already thinking, which food items are the least filling? How can I eat so I can get my money's worth? And about 1.5 to 2 hours later, you'll be satisfied with the amount of food you've eaten. You're probably full, or maybe a bit more than full. Okay, let's be realistic. If anything touched you in the gut, you'd probably throw up. But hey, at least you got your money's worth, right? Up until last year, I loved buffets. Because of my large appetite, eating food at buffets just made sense. Why pay the same amount of money to eat at a traditional restaurant and eat less food, whereas I could pay the same amount of money at a buffet and eat more food? My friends even developed strategies to help us make most out of the buffet eating experience. For example, we would try to maximize protein intake while minimizing the amount of starches we ate. And fun fact we learned along the way, starving yourself before a buffet session doesn't actually help. It actually increases the amount your stomach shrinks by. Instead, it's better to eat a large breakfast in the morning and drink water and other fluids throughout the day so that water takes up that space in your stomach while preventing that shrinkage. But long story short, I stopped going to buffets. Why? Well, on the way out of my local all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue, I had a realization. Eating your money's worth isn't as simple as it seems. You see, buffets tamper with the individual's psychology and their approach to finding fulfillment in life, while at the same time being detrimental to both societal and environmental health. And please, let me be extremely clear. This is by no means a video meant to discourage and make fun of people who eat at buffets. I do agree that from a financial standpoint, eating at buffets makes sense. This is why I think buffets make sense in the short term. But this is just my personal take on why I personally, keyword personally, stopped eating at buffets. I'm also going to introduce some potential solutions to the dilemmas I'm about to bring up. Feel free to express any ideas or just stuff you want to leave in the comments below. But at the end of the day, if you want to go ham on the seafood section at your local buffet, no one's stopping you, and have a good time while you're at it. Without further ado, let's address a hot take I've been meaning to talk about for a while. Why buffets suck. Would you pay money to feel miserable? Unless you're into that, the obvious answer would be no. Why would you give up something that you spend so much time accumulating, that being money, to stray from the pursuit of happiness? Now let's think about the rationale for eating at buffets. Why do we eat at buffets? As the name suggests, we can eat as much as we want. And the thing to consider here is wants are different from needs in the sense that wants are endless. Is there a difference between eating as much as we want and eating as much as we can? Because to frequent buffet goers, those two scenarios can oftentimes be synonymous. At typical restaurants where food is ordered, food can typically be taken in a box and taken to go. That option isn't available at all-you-can-eat restaurants for obvious reasons. Therefore, we're constantly asking ourselves, can I eat more? Instead of, do I really need to eat more? From a subjective standpoint, I think that the process of eating food should be properly enjoyed. Unless you're someone like a bodybuilder who needs to meet specific needs, such as cramming your body full of protein to prepare for a competition, the experience of eating food should leave you undeniably content and satisfied. The concept of buffets hijacks that train of thought by convincing us that eating food is purely transactional without factoring the emotional thinking involved. And by the time we're overstuffed, we lie to ourselves and say that the discomfort was worth it. That dishonesty with yourself, I think, is the real price to pay for gluttony. Here's a quote taken from an article on a study on buffets published by the University of Kansas. Hedonic eating is a general term that's used in the literature to refer to eating that's more focused on the rewarding characteristics of a food, as opposed to strictly satisfying physiological hunger. The take-home point is really that people who tended to consume more carbohydrate and sodium foods when they were freely available were at greater risk for weight and body fat gain. Because of their model, buffets are forced to design their food selections with profit in mind. Thus, they put the cheap filling stuff at the front of the buffet line. And the study shows that 75% of buffet consumers select whatever food is in the first tray. and 66% of all the food they consume comes from the first 3 trays. As an American, it's impossible to ignore the severity of the obesity epidemic in this country relative to other countries. The buffets don't want you to eat their expensive foods. They are genuinely more profit conscious than they are health conscious, and therefore they willingly overlook the health risks that their designs can have on the American people. Health risks like raised sodium levels, raised cholesterol levels, and so on. For instance, Kelly Bramlett Blackburn from the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center states that overeating can lead to unwanted weight gain, and carrying excess weight can increase your cancer risk. She also mentioned that it can increase your risk of other issues such as heartburn and can even throw off your circadian rhythm or your internal clock. If you really think about it, buffets only make sense as a business if they make some serious sacrifices and modifications to the traditional restaurant model. And in doing so, we, the consumers, are affected. The question is your health really worth that minuscule amount of money saved? You might say, okay, well, I can control myself at a buffet. What's the point of placing yourself in that position where you have to exert that self control when you could just go to a less demanding environment and not have to exert that self control in the first place? A lot of food is wasted in buffets. Some buffets try to make use of these leftovers by incorporating them into hashes and other such foodstuffs. But the truth is, most buffets don't care, due to regulations or just general convenience. Here's an excerpt from Forbes writer Christina Troitino. Initially reported by the New York Times, the international design firm IDEO, famous for their disruptive designing of products ranging from Apple's first mouse to the Swiffer, studied the Hyatt Regency Orlando to understand how much food was regularly being wasted by its buffet service. The conclusion that nearly half its food was being wasted, coupled with the 2016 RE-Fed report, indicated that nearly 40% of food waste is generated by consumer-serving businesses like hotels, reconfirms that hotels play a significant role in the generation of food waste. Another article from UC Berkeley quantifies the specific impact of this food waste. In terms of environmental concerns, Biointelligence Services approximated that 1 kilo of food waste produces almost 2 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions, and consequently results in the exhaustion of 2.9 tons of natural resources, including species extinction and loss of biodiversity. Again, because we do not understand how much we want to eat, we typically get more than we need, just to make sure that we are getting our money's worth. If we wanted to minimize food waste, we'd buy a set amount of food that we're more confident that we can handle, which again is closer to the traditional restaurant model. So how can we tweak buffets to fix these problems? And is it better to just do away with buffets altogether? Well, realistically, probably not. In theory, buffets with an abundance of health-conscious options like salads and other greens could potentially make a dent in the health concern problem. But centering the entire business around these options ups the risk level for the business owner, which from a financial standpoint doesn't really make sense due to the scarcity of these types of models when you could easily just put in fast foods and fried foods at the beginning of the line like every other buffet has been doing. It's a tried and true proven model, and when you're running a business, it's better to be safe than sorry. On my recent trip to Japan, I noticed that some places actually incentivize people to eat less by taking off a small amount of money off their final cost when they order smaller portions. For instance, if I ordered a regular portion of rice, I could have 50 yen taken off my order if I ordered a smaller portion of rice. While I know that this is just a pricing gimmick, I think it could have real applications in America's restaurant industry. It's a harmless psychological gimmick that not only combats food waste, but also combats the obesity epidemic. And it also utilizes the one thing that Americans love the most: money. Or perhaps the solution is just to educate people, like I am to you, on the value of money and if it really is worth more than our health. After all, does that little amount of money saved really outweigh problems like obesity? No pun intended. Does this mean I'm never eating at a buffet again? Of course not. Does that make me a hypocrite? You could call me that. But I don't like to be 100% absolute in my takes for obvious reasons. If my friends decide to go out and eat at a buffet and want me to join them, then sure, I'll join them. But would I personally go out of my way to eat at a buffet? Probably not. So, as a final word to y'all, just try not to bite off more than you can chew. If you like this style of video, let me know down in the comments below. And if you have time, drop a like and a subscribe. It only takes a couple clicks, and it helps a lot. Cheers.